All right. What day is it? Tuesday. What's up on a Tuesday? I'm here with Ghost Painted Sky out of Boston. How's it going, guys?
All right. How are you doing?
Good. So, tell the viewers who you are and what you do.
Well, we're a more or less Boston-based goth rock, post-punk, dark wave band. Started originally as a solo project back in 2014 and has gone through a few iterations, but starting in 2018, Lisa started doing most of the vocals. This is Lisa. And it kind of became a different band at that point. So, and Michael has been playing with us for about a year on guitar, and Aurora has been with us almost from the beginning. Originally played live keyboards, now is playing violin with us.
Nice.
Years has been. So.
All right. So, how did each of you get into making music?
I myself.
Firstly, who do you want to ask? Because we all kind of.
I want to everyone.
Yeah, we can pass it around. We'll kick it.
Yeah.
I got into music. As long as I can remember. I started as a drummer, actually. I started officially playing drums when I was probably about 9 years old. But prior to that, I would often, as a toddler, it must have been hell on my parents, I would pull the pots and pans out of the underneath the stove and beat on them with wooden spoons and things. So I guess that could be considered my start. I started playing bass in my teens, eventually started playing some keyboard, started playing guitar, about a decade ago, give or take. That was probably the most recent instrument that I've kind of taught myself how to play. I'm by no means a virtuoso, but
mostly a drummer though too.
Like well, that's what I started playing
all
initially.
The drums that we do is actually live drums.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't.
Very little
don't
of
realize.
it's programmed. A couple of songs are, but most just for the feel. But most of it's actually recorded, in studio pretty much. And that's actually what we use for our backing tracks live too. We don't have a live drummer, but we also don't use a drum machine. We use the actual recorded drum tracks. So
that's cool.
Anyway, anyone else?
No, I might as well go.
Yeah, may as well.
So I don't have an actual musical background per se, but ever since I was little, I always wanted to sing, and I have memories of jumping up onto my bed as a little kid with a hairbrush and just singing my favorite songs. And would really fantasize about being the lead person on stage. So in a way, I feel like, my dream is actually coming true. I spent years at dive bars. I've shared before, my beginnings of singing were karaoke based. To get in front of people with a microphone, though, doing karaoke in a bar is not the easiest thing. So you gotta.
I've never done it.
Yeah, you've got to kind of have that want to be in front of people singing. So I guess it helped me scratch that itch. And then going forward, met David, and it was kind of a cool situation where we were driving somewhere, and I started singing. And
you were like the music in the car.
Yeah, you were like, "Oh my God, you can actually sing!" No, so.
Never mentioned it, but then
that was the beginning.
Yeah. So, the rest is history, as they say.
All right, Michael, Aurora.
Well, I've been playing guitar since I was 11. I'm now years old.
12.
I played like 8 guitars before that, just making it out of random stuff or whatever. So I always there's a photo of me playing a tennis racket when I was a kid, and so yeah, I've been into it for a while. And yeah, I don't know. That's about it.
All right. Kitty.
She doesn't like being alone for 5 seconds.
She played the kitty and then moved on to the violin.
So my story, yes.
Yes.
I'm awkward. So my long history is, I guess, in third grade. Well, my older sister played the violin, so I was like, I want to do that. So I started it. I hated hearing myself, so I never practiced, which is why I'm not that good. I moved to making synth songs in my dad's basement on his 4-track machine in high school. Like that was my angsty goth music days. And then I met Dave in like 20 years ago, is it? Something like that? At a concert. Something like sad, like horrifying like that. And I got roped into a band he was in and kind of dragged the violin out of me.
Yeah, we used to be in another band together back in the mid to late 2000s
Mhm.
for several years.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So maybe it was when you were younger growing up or more recently, but tell me a story about a song that just had a massive impact on you when you heard it.
Anyone have
That's
thoughts?
for everybody.
There's a lot of ones.
Yeah, I don't want to just dominate this. Anyone else?
Or a song or a particular band or, something that inspired you to pursue music.
It's just such a good question. I have like
Yeah,
all these
it's
bands popping up in my
right,
mind.
right. It's something to think about. I have several personally.
I'm going to let David and Michael answer
musical epiphanies. Yeah, we're both kind of music nerds, I guess you could say. Several of the bands that really inspired me, I guess The Cure would probably be one of the first. That's what really got me into dark music in the first place, and really kind of changed my outlook on things, because it was, prior to that, I had actually been into metal for a bit, which I don't really listen to as much anymore, but in my teens I did. And then I heard The Cure, and I could hear the darkness and some of the metal, but without necessarily with a different dimension, I guess you could say. And I mean, of course, simultaneously got into industrial through Skinny Puppy and stuff, but wasn't ever really my main focus. So The Cure is definitely one that introduced kind of the melodic and the romanticism in the darker side of things. I mean, of course, they have their poppy or silly side too, and but that was the first band, along with Joy Division, actually, that really, the Closer album, that both really kind of introduced me to that concept of romance and darkness, and that's Lycia, the early Lycia material just had an enormous influence on me personally. It's just, that connection, just creating these whole sound worlds, like on the Day in the Stark Corner and Ionia albums, in particular, but a lot of the stuff around that period, Wake and Burning Circle and all that, really massively influential. Not always necessarily sound wise, a bit, but just the feeling, capturing that intensity, that emotion, to me was really, really inspiring and influential. And it kind of, when I started GPS, that was something that was very much, in the back of my mind, just getting across that kind of thing. I was going through a lot when I started the project. That's kind of how it started. I was getting divorced. I'd lost 3 friends very rapidly in succession. So I was just going through a lot, and that being able to express that like that was a big influence in that regard. And I would say Swans as well too. White Light from the Mouth of Infinity was just a whole album. Something in its own. It's like The Cure's Disintegration. It's just a foundational album for me. And you could probably hear a bit more of the musical influence of Swans in what we do than say Lycia, but I mean, it's all in there somewhere, though. I think what we do is definitely its own animal as well.
Yeah.
And I'm going to shut up now and turn the floor to anybody? Michael, Aurora?
Okay, let's see. Yeah, similar to David, so it's all about The Cure. There was like, the shitty 80s pop music that was dominating things, and then I saw the Just Like Heaven video, and I collected The Cure like a madman, and I'm still collecting Cure like a madman, and so I mean, I probably the two like really big influences really would be The Cure, but then there's also Fugazi, actually. Just that kind of just this the punk energy, there's something to that. But my tastes have been all over the place. I worked in music retail for like 25 years, so it's hard to not get a little on you, of
Right.
like different genres and whatnot. So I'm pretty diverse, but like The Cure is really kind of my roots, really. The Cure, Depeche Mode, that sort of thing.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Lisa, Ro, what you guys got?
I wanted to just put a little shout out in there to Cocteau Twins personally.
Oh yeah.
When I heard Cocteau Twins 9 million years ago, it absolutely, I think it changed my way of thinking about what music is supposed to be,
Mhm.
or what most people consider is like a song. Her lyrics and the way she sings, actually, I didn't know the lyrics. We used to sing to it,
Vocalizations.
just her vocalizations.
Mhm.
We used to sing to it and make up our own words to it. And this is when I was a little baby bat. So it kind of has been with me all of the rest of my life, that songwriting and lyricism does not need to be your standard, like, I love you. And it can be,
Yeah.
it can be creative and dramatic, and or not. It can just be whatever you want it to be. It does not have to be, I don't know. I'm thinking of like the shitty 80s stuff Michael was just saying, which I do
Or
love
any
some of
decade,
it.
in
But
fairness, yeah.
but yeah, so I just had to put my little 2 cents in there.
Yeah, definitely.
I
And
mean,
of course,
and that's the thing too, right?
sorry, what's up?
I was gonna say. I mean, that's the thing. Like, the 80s, the shitty 80s pop music. I mean, did it really speak to any of us? I want to dance with somebody who loves me. Granted, I'm a kid at that point.
It's pop music of any decade, though. Really, like it's all, it's basically it's more product than it is art, at least in my mind, for the most part. I mean, there are exceptions to that.
That kind of music makes me feel more alone, actually.
Yeah,
Because I
same. Yeah.
can't feel. I can hear the beat, but I'm not feeling the core and the soul or the
Mhm.
heart of it.
Yeah,
It's so formulaic, and yeah. So I agree.
Yeah.
right. Like pop music kind of alienates certain people. It's like almost the opposite, the desired effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a contingent of us, I think. And of course, I also just want to mention bands like Clan of Zymox and Sisters of Mercy, of course, are pretty not necessarily specifically in sound, but they're definitely influential on what we do and what we are interested in, even if not necessarily always directly. So
For sure.
the classics. Other bands too, like Requiem and White. When I was younger and first heard that, it was just mind blowing to me. They later became more syphilitic, and they've disbanded, a long time ago now. But yeah, just hearing that just was opened a whole new idea of what music could be in some ways. So.
Isn't the guitarist responsible for the Venture Brothers?
Yeah, Eric Hammer or Doc Hammer, I think he goes by for that.
Yeah.
And Weep, that's his most recent project, I believe.
It's just a strange trajectory.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Right, totally. Interesting. Ro, thoughts?
Yeah. This might make people mad, but the reason why I kept on playing the violin, or rather picked it back up, was because of the Crew Shadows. I know it's like kind of a cheesy band, but it was the thing of I fell in love with them because they were kind of ridiculous. But then when Wishfire came along, that was the album that I was like, oh, I can actually play along with some of these things, and I would just go up in my room and just play along with them, and it was, I don't know, that kind of like that just sparked it for me. And yeah, I know I like a little cheese. I like a little with the dance music, with all that. Otherwise, like, I grew up with They Might Be Giants, so my music tastes don't make much sense. But like they got accordion, but they're really, really dark and strange while they're being poppy. So I kind like that kind of like messed with my head. I'm like, these lyrics are messed up.
Yeah.
I still follow them. I've been seeing them since I was 9. So
I was trying to figure out the chord changes to Birdhouse in Your Soul the other day at work. It's actually, like, it's not the most simple written tune.
They're kind of unusually intelligent for the time and place in which they emerged, so
Yeah.
For sure.
I can
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
All right. How did the band name come about?
Well, interesting story. The band that I mentioned that Aurora and I used to be in, the bass player Ron
Hmm.
came up with, there was actually going to be a release for that band, which never happened. When I was first working on this project, I thought of dozens of names. Nothing just seemed to fit, but I kept going back to that. It just seemed perfect. It kind of encapsulates that the kind of haunted feeling, yet with just a sliver of optimism and not necessarily ethereality, but something along those lines. Eventually, I just said, "Hey, since we never used, do you mind if I use that for the project that I'm working on?" Ron was gracious enough to say, "Okay, cool." So props to Ron forever. And that's basically the story. Ron is still working in music, but he does doom metal these days with the band Faces of Bayon. So real good human being, real good human being.
Would you mind also elaborating on, a lot of people ask me, what does that mean? And you have such an eloquent the meaning of what does ghost painted sky actually mean?
Well, to me, and that's kind of, I was alluding to it a bit, but it has that kind of ethereal quality where you're haunted, but you're also seeing the beauty and the life and light in the darkness at the same time.
Hmm.
And that's kind of always been, and just honesty and truth as well. It's a painting. It's expressive. These are the things we bring out. It has that haunted quality, but there's something more beyond that. So this has been a very introspective and kind of intense and personal project at times. I mean,
Right.
it just kind of encapsulated a lot of that to me.
All right. So you dropped your single Corridors last year, but nothing else new since then, right?
We're working on trying to finish an album.
That was my next question.
Yeah. We've personally just had a hell of a year in our personal lives. So a lot of things have gotten kind of pushed off that we had intended to finish this year, including a new full-length album. We're pretty close, but not quite there yet. We're hoping to have it out early next year, optimistically. Some of the songs, like Corridors, will be on it, and probably a slightly different version. But we actually just had another song come out on the Goths for Sanctuaries compilation that was exclusive to that. That'll probably also be on the album, but it's called Kissing Lions. So that's pretty recent. Just came out 3 weeks ago, something like that. And so that's the most recent thing. Much like Corridors and Fire and Flame, which we kind of put out, they're kind of, I expect them to be kind of early versions of the songs. They're finished, the final album mixes, I should say, probably won't be radically different, but they'll be different enough, and hopefully have a bit more polish to them. I kind of like the idea of putting out a raw version to kind of capture that initial emotion and feeling. Sometimes, like say with the Fire and Flame sort of digital single we put out 2 years ago now, I believe. It has, I just really like the feeling of it. It's maybe not the most polished sounding thing, but it really captured what we were looking to capture in that song. So that'll probably end up being a little more polished with a few additional things going on for the album version. But sometimes I like just to capture that and throw it out there into the world, and then maybe have a more polished official version at a later time. Not to necessarily skimp on the quality necessarily, but sometimes just really capture the feeling, even if it's not a perfect recording. And sometimes that itself, I think, has worth.
All right, that makes sense.
At least a different way of looking at something,
Right.
So
what would all of you say is like the biggest struggle that the band is facing? Obviously, you said this year sucked for you all, but like what is your biggest struggle?
Apparently, my work schedule.
That's a good option.
And where we live.
Yeah, I mean, they're always going have a bit more challenge with it than some. I would say that's probably our number one issue. over the years, and Michael brought up his schedule, but it's by no means, just being able to coincide, have our art coincide with our ability to make a living has been extremely challenging, not just for us, but for all the people who have been involved in the live band over the years.
Hmm.
So I think that is just definitely an ongoing theme. So it's caused problems with personnel, among other things over time. Um, so I would definitely say that's just that conflict of trying
Yeah.
to live in the real world, but also create something worthwhile and also have it be viable and not just ignore it, like unfortunately happens, like with this year with so much going on in our
Mhm.
personal lives for chunks at a time. It can be very hard to balance that, and I think that's probably, along with financial concerns, the biggest hurdle we faced.
Hmm. All right.
Anyone put on that?
All right. You obviously said you're working on another album to come out next year. What other goals are you guys working towards?
We're working on some shows for next
Hmm.
year, especially outside of New England. This year we've really, because of as I mentioned, we've had a lot to deal with, a lot on our plates
Right.
personally. We haven't really got to travel too far. The 2 years prior, we've made little kind of mini tour trips. We kind of are hoping to expand upon that some next year and actually travel a bit and play outside of New England more.
Hmm.
Last year we pretty much, or this past year I should say, we're still in 2023. um, we haven't been able to travel very much for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to address that somewhat next year. I mean, there are still limitations on what we're able to do, but we're very much looking to expand on that a bit,
Hmm.
as well as actually finish and release the full-length album.
Right.
It'll be the second full-length album. And a lot of the songs that we've been playing live, and some that have appeared on the Bandcamp and on the Ephemeral Wake EP, at least 2 of those will be on there. So there'll be some familiar songs. They'll be slightly, maybe in a slightly different form, or a little more polished, like I said.
Yeah.
As well as a few new ones that haven't been heard yet.
All right. Cool. So you said you did play some. You have played some shows recently. Does any one show in particular like really stand out for some reason, or?
In recent times, we actually just played a pair of pretty good shows.
Yeah.
That just really felt good. Even the crowds maybe weren't enormous. Yeah, I mean, in goth music, they seldom are, but
Yeah.
but it was just a really good response. We played a few recently. In particular, I'm thinking we just played in Manchester, New Hampshire, up at Resurrection at Jewel,
Mhm.
and we played at Ralph's in Worcester. They were really fun shows. We played with both of them with the Temple of Mercy, Sisters of Mercy cover band, as well as a few other artists, and they were just a lot of fun. Really good crowd response. Maybe not the biggest audience, but they were just really. It felt good, and I feel like now, as I said, Michael started playing with us about a year ago, but I really feel like we're really hitting. We're locking. It's feeling really good now. When you first start playing with people, even though everybody's doing everything right, it hasn't fully gelled yet, and it doesn't say it sounds bad, but eventually you just hit a point where everybody's on the same page, so to speak, the same sheet of music.
I feel like we're like a
And-
legit band. Like,
Yeah,
Right.
these are my guys.
and
you know,
and it's less like
feels
Lisa and
good.
I
It
and
feels really
whoever
good.
can make it. It's feeling a lot more solid, and I've been feeling really good about where we've been and how we've been playing. And it's just felt very good, and the songs are live, are coming across very well and strongly. We also played with Pilgrim's Yearning and Ashcode back in September, and that was a really cool show. We got to play for the first time the Middle East in Cambridge, where I've been playing shows forever.
It's hard to pick one.
Yeah, it's hard to pick just one,
Yeah.
but those are 3 recent ones that were actually a lot of fun, and it was really cool to be able to play the Middle East, where I've been going to see shows forever, and finally actually get up on the stage, and play with Ashcode and our friends in Pilgrims. It was a cool experience. So we've had a few good ones recently. There have been a bunch more, but those are the 3 that come to mind. They're pretty much the most recent, and they've all been pretty standard. So.
Well, it's basically any show that where we've like gotten a good handle of how to sound on stage,
Yeah, yeah.
Like Dusk in Providence, that was perfect.
Yeah.
The big issue with us is like it's the whole
That's a good one.
Yeah, we played with Hemlock for Socrates down at Nocturnal at Dusk in Providence, and that was a real good one too. And the sound person was
he has a lot to do with that. The sound engineer makes a big difference for performing artists.
Huge difference.
For
Can't overstate it. So when you get somebody who's really good, it makes a world of difference. We've had a good one recently with sound people. So
oh, that's always a help. I was at a show not too long ago, and the sound guy was horrible for a while, and you couldn't even tell what kind of band was playing. So
it happens. It happens. So we played shows where they've basically thrown the bar staff on sound, and it's been like,
jeez,
it turned out about as well as you can imagine. We're not naming names, but it's happened.
I want to do that. Like I had a sound engineer like shout at me, and to take the hat off of my mic.
It's like a little windscreen.
It's just it's a little black foam.
What?
And he was like, "It's that."
It doesn't make much of a difference at all.
Why do you have that? That's the reason why everything sounds so terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but anyway.
I was like, on the negative. I pulled it off and was like, did not matter. Like, that's better, huh?
It basically just diffuses the plosive so that it's not popping as much, but I don't know. Some people think it makes a difference.
Well, I ruined the show with my little black hat.
Is that the same thing as a pop screen?
It's similar. It's just a more portable version. Mm-hmm. Pretty much the same thing. Maybe not quite as effective, but
it was just funny.
Yeah. One random example of some of the things you encounter there.
Have you guys had any weird fan interactions?
Not really. People.
You're lucky. You should hear some of the stories I get on here.
Yeah, we had
poetry
at least one person send poetry.
Certain people at the end of the shows come to see me at the table when I'm alone. We wait.
And it's somebody sent a drawing once early on when I was still doing the vocals, which was kind of neat. But
the poetry was the weirdest because they wanted the poetry to be in all songs.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I read it and was like,
yeah, I'm not sure what the motivation was. But hey, whatever. I mean, it's cool to share art, but we haven't had anything astonishingly weird. For the most part, people have been cool.
Like no panties have been thrown up on the stage. Yeah.
I'll throw some at you next time, Lisa.
Katie, wait. Santa hammocks, none of that. Not yet.
All right, this next question is kind of off the wall, but I ask all my guests this question. If you were a salad, what kind of dressing would it have?
Oh, if I'm a salad, I'm definitely a fruit salad. You have to be dressing. So there's my answer.
Okay.
What kind of dressing?
Yeah, what kind of dressing?
I don't know.
I go for a good vegan ranch. That's what I do these days. So
I like ginger miso. I'm not sure if that would really describe us, but I like it.
Okay.
Italian's a good old standby. Michael, thoughts?
Anything vegan.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, Michael and I are both vegans.
Okay.
For what it's worth.
For what it's worth.
I was vegetarian for a while. I gave up.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
I'm the odd man out. I'm pescatarian.
All right.
For what it's worth.
You only eat pests.
Anyway.
What's that?
You only eat pests.
That's it.
pesky food.
Sorry. I can break out the really, really really shitty jokes.
Where can people follow you and stay up to date on what you're doing?
Our website is probably the most updated. I mean, it's all pretty well updated, but our website, just ghostpaintedsky.com, is always has the most recent information. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Threads, Twitter.
Bandcamp? Did you mention Bandcamp?
Oh, of course, yeah, Bandcamp. Yeah, that would probably be the most important one.
Yeah.
Never hope to make any revenue at all, but outside of shows anyway. Yeah, pretty much the usual spaces. I mean, we're on SoundCloud, but it seems like it's kind of been abandoned, except for maybe by the hip hop community. But otherwise, it seems like SoundCloud is feeling pretty abandoned these days. We're on there for what it's worth, but you know, Reverb Nation, all over the place, basically.
And your home address is?
Name source to
All you there.
But yeah, Bandcamp, our band website, Instagram, Facebook, the usual suspects.
Yeah.
We're pretty much on them all. We don't have a TikTok at this point, but
We're everywhere.
Well, we've been told we should.
Yeah,
It's never a bad idea.
yeah. So maybe that's in the works. I don't know, but
TikTok's scary, man. It's messed up.
yeah, it's yeah. I read
I'm
the
really addicted to it.
right.
That's why I fall asleep at night. I watch TikTok. All right. And is there anything we haven't really touched on too much that you wanted to talk about?
Nothing immediately comes to mind. Anyone?
No, I don't think so.
I got nothing.
All right. Now then, what would you like to say to your fans who watch this?
Thank you. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming out to the shows. Buying music if you have, that's always super appreciated. I know it's so easy to stream now, but the few extra bucks just from some sales of downloads and physical media is just enormously helpful. As well as merch and anything.
And coming to the shows.
Yeah, it just being present for it and just giving a damn is just. I mean, otherwise, we'd probably still be doing this. We'd just be doing it in our home and nobody would be hearing it. But otherwise, especially as far as shows go, just thank you. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being there. Other bands, promoters, everybody, radio people who have played us. Thank you. It's
we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me. That was a lot of fun. And let me know when you're getting close to having your new album out. I'd love to get you back on to help promote it or write a review of it or something.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Drop the bass.